How's it going? Hope you're doing as good as I am. Physically, I'm gonna put it at like a 6, not because I don't feel good physically, or it's not that I feel worse, it's just I spent a lot of energy today, and I spent a lot of my workout fixing my form and not being as efficient as I could have been. So, just unfortunately that makes me use a lot more strength than I would have wanted to. But it's fine, we learned. Mentally, started the workout at like a 5 because I kept messing up my form. But I got to perfect it at the end, which is what made this gym day, we can put it at a 7.5 just for the sake of it was very hard mentally to push myself through getting the form right. But in the long run, I got to perfect it at the end, and that's a better feeling than anything else, in my opinion, with this kind of sport. So along those lines, I thought it'd be fun to talk about something that I love experiencing with at least Olympic weightlifting and kind of powerlifting. Everybody's different, but I feel like most people who lift experience this when they're very committed to it, is how when you do this and it feels like a lifelong commitment, you are passionate about lifting these weights, whatever. And it doesn't have to be the gym, it can be anything you're very passionate about that you're trying to fix every single day, like how people do art, and they have to continuously fix their form in their drawing in order to get better and produce better material. Similarly, when you mess up and it really drags at your mind, it creates a short-term obsession, which can be viewed negatively, but I love it because I'm passionate about this sport, this short-term obsession eventually turns into a long-term passion. Every time I figure it out, it is such a good feeling, better than anything else. And damn, I just had somebody yelling at me from across their car. But I lost my train of thought. It's okay. Anyway, but that long-term passion that comes from the short-term obsession is what makes this sport so great. I feel like anybody who's accomplished anything spectacular in this sport, from Arnold Schwarzenegger to the small YouTuber that you might know that just does it for fun, whatever. Everybody who's committed and passionate about it, they always will have those moments that drag them down so much that the breakthrough makes it all the more worth it when they figure it out at the end. So today, what I got to experience, if you see it when I'm doing my snatches, some of you might notice, is I jump forward. And this typically isn't that big an issue. I know that I still have and have had for the longest time a very slight jump forward, maybe by an inch at the most, sometimes not at all. But because this is my pause week, I started pausing at the knee for the first time, and it has opened up a lot of holes in my form, which is what's so great about doing any form of accessory movement in Olympic weightlifting, because it will make what you are shit at very apparent. And pausing at the knee forced me to pull way harder than I would have had to on a normal snatch, which made the jump so much worse. What is unfortunate is that, like always, I didn't figure it out until after I had done all my snatch sets, because, kind of similar to when you have something going on in life that's messing with you, or you want to try to figure out a situation that's bringing you down, whether it's a personal thing or stuff with relationships. I like telling people, if a friend ever asks me for advice on what they should decide on or what they should do about it, I always tell them to sleep on it. Not for the sake of giving it time, but for the sake of giving your brain time. Because whenever you're trying to figure something out like that, even with weightlifting with form, right when you start messing it up, the emotional side of your brain is going to take over and want to think way too hard about it, overanalyze, change things that don't need to be changed. And then when you take a minute to step back, breathe about it, do something else, I got to go do my overhead squats and my snatch pulls because I didn't want to think about it too much, and I got to come back to it. And giving myself that time to think about it, when I came back to it, I really got to understand what I was messing up without getting upset about it and overthinking it. So what I got to learn which, you know, you'd think after doing this kind of lifting for almost like 3 years now, that I would have figured this out earlier, but I wasn't. I had like the very basics coached to me for like a month, and that was it. And then the rest has just been me ever since. So it's a little hard to figure this stuff out from YouTube videos and just trial and error, but I love it for that reason. But essentially, the way I was doing it is when I didn't notice it before, because, you know, when you do an inefficient like when your lift is inefficient in a sort of way, you do it for so long that it feels really good and efficient. And so, you know, when you try to do the more efficient form, it will feel really shitty at first because it's not something you're used to. So what I was messing up was I would start, like, I just recently got my shoulders over the bar, like, in a better way than I was before. Before I had my shoulders pulled too far back in my starting position. And so with my shoulders over the bar, I was able to, like, start on a better midfoot. But the issue was that I just noticed today is when I get past my knees, I would shift instantly to the front of the weight to the front of my foot, even like not on my toes. Like I was still on a flat foot, but the weight wasn't on my midfoot anymore. It was on the front of my midfoot, if you will. And so it would reduce the amount of pull I had with my arms, getting it into my hips and just standing straight up with it. And it would force me to not only pull into my hips, but also because I had a lack of power after my knee because of this hiccup, my I'm struggling to find the words. But essentially, I was like pushing in with my hips really hard while also pulling really hard in with my arms to overcompensate for the inefficiency. And that is what it basically made the bar go in like a mini circle around my head instead of just straight up and catching it, which is what you always want. And so the way that I fixed this, my mental cue about it, at least if anybody wants to know if they might be struggling with the same thing and they're jumping forward, is when you come past your knee, you need to make sure you maintain a completely flat and level foot. And it's easier said than done. Everybody's just like, just stand up with the bar. That's like the simple way of thinking about it. But it's literally like, you need to, like the way that you have to mentally think of like staying on your midfoot after your knee, you need to like really make sure your foot is still completely level planted after you come after your knee. Even if it feels like you're not doing it, when you got to record yourself, and I guarantee you'll see your knees push under the bar too quickly instead of just coming up and pushing through your midfoot, which is slightly more toward your heels. And then the second part of it was I was doing, because of the whip motion, I was doing like a mini jump instead of getting to my toes on the third pull and then planting. So what I got to fix with this as well, which is just a 2-in-1, which doesn't happen very often, is I now also am pushing my body under the bar a little bit faster, because not like forcibly, but just because of the little change of like the moment my feet come up, I plant my feet right away instead of overextending the jump and trying to slam my feet into the ground as hard as I can. And that made my body naturally fall into the position better while also not making it whip around my body. So anyway, to conclude it, I guess, for the sake of the conversation, I don't want to focus too much on what I went through today. If you're going through something like that and you feel like you know, because these small obsessions can drag you down so much, which is the shittiest part about it, you gotta really just take a minute, step back, even if you need to come back the next day, or again, like what I did today, I did my full workout and then went back to it, even though I was a little bit more tired. You just need to start with the bar. There's no point putting on weight if you're just working on form. So, I just got to, like, whenever you have a small obsession like this, you just need to make sure you give yourself a minute, step back, and like think about what you really did that was not even wrong, just inefficient for what you want your form to become. You know, because it's never that you're doing the lifting wrong per se, it's just slightly inefficient for what you are wanting to become, which is the most frustrating part because it'll feel so good until you watch the video. And so embrace that short-term obsession, you know, be obsessed for a minute, that's fine, but just make sure that when you feel that one really good like mind muscle connection lift that just hits perfectly, you'll really know, okay, like that's how it feels. Let's stop obsessing and just focus on the fact that I got to get that good lift. Getting that good lift is what makes it worth all of the obsession. Because then after that, at least I think with most people, when you get that one really good, not even a good lift, but that good mind muscle connection lift where it feels super fluent, like you barely did anything to land in it, that's the one that you will never forget. And then all the workout, like it sucks for one workout, but you gotta remember, you got thousands of workouts ahead of you. Like you got plenty of time to perfect it even further and get to actually have fun with it without thinking about it. So just in a couple of days, whenever you do snatches again or whatever you're messing up on, or just even if it's tomorrow or whatever next day you work out, you will get to really have fun with it and improve with it at the most efficiency that you have never had before. Instead of thinking about how shitty it must have felt getting through that that short-term obsession, think about how fun it's going to be when you get to throw the bar as hard as you want with the most perfect form that you've ever seen yourself do, with the least amount of strain and inefficiency that your body has to deal with. It's just a great feeling. The next workout you do is probably going to be phenomenal. And then again, lastly, to conclude it all, when you get through something like this, you just got to always remember that you will run into another hiccup that will either hit you harder or not as hard, whatever. You're going to run into something that you're going to have to take a little bit of time to chill out about, figure it out, short-term obsess, but then you're going to get that long-term passion from it that drives you to want to do better every single time you lift. Okay, so a bit of a tangent. I had a lot to say about that because I just went through it today, so I felt like getting it out. But I hope that helped anybody, if anything. I love the fact that my inexperience and newfound experiences that I get to come across every day might help someone else skip a couple of the shit steps that I had to go through. So just enjoy your day, have fun with the long-term passion, and don't overcomplicate the short-term obsession. Just enjoy the lifts. So I will be back tomorrow. Bye-bye.